Hey, this is Gary Collins and Heath Squier, and I am the owner of the Primal Power Method. Heath is the owner of Julian Bakery. We want to make that clear again, just in case people are confused, since they send us nasty hate mail to the wrong people all the time. I'm just kidding. But we want to talk about a topic that there's a lot of confusion in, and I've noticed it over the last couple years, and that is endurance training and the paleo and primal lifestyle. There's been a lot of articles written about how severe endurance can cause ventricle damage of the right ventricle, and that it can cause heart problems and heart attacks down the line. And all the studies have not been done with a proper diet is the problem, though. They're not differentiating between a healthy diet and a standard American diet, which is highly inflammatory. But I think some of the paleo community and primal community has picked up on this as don't do any endurance exercise. All you need to do is win sprints, and that's it, if that. I think some people are lost on the exercise portion, don't you? Because there's a lot of confusion with exercise right now.
Yeah, and and if you're not following a kind of a ketogenic, low sugar, low carb approach, you're going to actually you're going to have problems. You're going to start being puffy, and if you follow a low carb ketogenic approach, you can actually get results with with a minimal amount of exercise. These people aren't even doing a minimal amount of exercise is the problem, and it's no wonder why they're not getting any kind of results. And I think what Gary and I are saying here is that follow what we're saying, which is a low sugar, low carb, ketogenic approach. Mix it with some exercise 3 to 5 times a week. And if you want to go into this endurance realm, which is long distance running and so forth, it is ideal. You just need to amp up your fat and protein content, and you're going to have a sustained energy while running. I mean, yesterday I ran 45 minutes straight. Beforehand, I had some of our new beef protein, and that's it. I mean, it's just, I amped up my protein. I had a healthy source of fats from coconut oil, and that's it. 45 minutes flat, straight run, and then I lifted weights for 15 to 20 minutes afterwards. I mean, I don't do that all the time, but my body has the necessary nutrients in order to run a sustained period and at a fast speed. I'm running 6, 7 miles per hour. I mean, it's a nice little run there.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in mixing it up. I mean, you just don't want to do wind sprints and high intensity interval training 3, 4 times a week and that's it. And don't get me wrong, that's great. I do it, I implement it, but I have one day that I commit to endurance training during the week, and that's usually I ride my bikes because I can't run because of injuries. And so what I do is I ride my bike. I've ridden my bike up to 6 hours without a meal, just water. And it's because I'm a fat burner. I don't need to carb load up to a point. Don't get me wrong, I work with athletes too. And for super high endurance athletes, for us ultra marathoners, triathletes, Ironmen, that's a little different. I mean, you're going to have to up your carbs because you need some readily available blood glucose to kind of replenish. There's certain times it takes about 2.5 hours for you to deplete your glycogen with some pretty moderate to heavy exercise. People always talk about, oh, I just did 15 minutes of lifting. I got to go, get my glycogen back up. And I'm like, what? You're already full. You're done. It takes quite a bit to deplete your glycogen levels. So with that, yeah,
Well, yeah, it's an important point you touched on. Is what we're saying here is Gary and I, through eating a low carb ketogenic kind of fashion, not taking in too much sugar or carbohydrates, we've become fat burners, and you can definitely go a certain distance with that. But if you are going beyond, 2.5 hours, you would have to adjust your macros accordingly. But how many people are actually, doing that
yeah,
sort of endurance training?
not very many.
Not very many.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is, unless you're working out for more than 2.5 hours, following this ketogenic, low sugar, low carb kind of paleo template, you're going to be in the optimal fat burning zone. You don't even have to work out. You can really work out in an hour, I would say, and get insane results. And
Yeah.
you don't have to. You don't have to work out that hard to see the results either. Your body's just going to start shedding fat because you're burning fat as energy all of a sudden, and it's just too easy.
Yeah, well, and it's a big difference. I think the problem with most people do is when they get into health and exercise, they instantly categorize themselves as an athlete. They think they're obviously placing themselves like in the Michael Jordan category. You go, no, 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 you're not even close to that. The professional athletes and people who compete train at a far different level than even me and Heath. I mean, that you're talking 3, 4 times the amount of effort that we're putting in. And when you do that, you have to offset with some more carbohydrates, but you don't want to be doing that in sugars and goos and Gatorade and stuff like that. What you want to do is you want to do it with food. So, sweet potato, maybe some starchier carbs that you can get that aren't going to ruin your paleo far as grains and, mess around with rice. You can. I've messed around a little bit here and there with some people who just don't want to give up rice. I tried. But some of them, they'll use it as an endurance piece. But those are athletes. Those are people that are burning huge amounts of calories. That is not me and you.
Yeah, no, and that's important right there is that I played soccer for 13 years, okay? And I was skinny as a rail. I could eat whatever I want. And this is the same principle. You have you have a lot of vegans blasting, paleo people on the way they look. Well, these paleo people aren't exercising very much. They're not practicing what they preach. These vegans are out there. They're actually endurance running. They can eat whatever they want. I'm sure you can have all the bananas you want, and you can eat whatever you want. I mean, the bottom line is if you're an endurance runner, you're running long distances, and you have the time to do that, and the optimal thing there is the time to do that, then you can literally eat whatever you want because your body is an inferno. It's just gonna obliterate all the calories you're consuming, but what we're saying is you can have a much better, foundation for your body to utilize, healthy fats and proteins and the right carbs and have far better success with less inflammation of the joints by following a paleo template. And sure, you can adjust your macros for those long endurance runs or whatever it is that you're doing. But guess what? You're going to have less joint pain, And for me, I used to play basketball also. Back in the day, and I used to have bursitis, and I was consuming grains and I was consuming rice. I'm sure I was skinny, but I was having these joint pains. I was also really young, so when I say I was playing basketball, this is back when I was 18, and I was eating healthy, but I was definitely consuming inflammatory, sort of grains. And I paid the price, and I was like, I'm young. Why am I having joint pain? Not until I was much older did I understand what was actually happening in my body. But there's something to be said about having, doing CrossFit and not having joint pain afterwards, and avoiding a lot of these injuries can be really offset just by consuming a low sugar, an anti-inflammatory diet like the Paleo diet. But you just have to adjust your macros accordingly.
Yeah, and you can do some pretty long endurance. I mean, you can go out there and really pound it and not have to carb load. And I think that's another part of it is they're going against the carb loading and doing that as opposed to, looking at it, because I'll do it, and, the overconsumption of carbs and carb loading. Again, in endurance, we think people get discouraged from endurance because, like I said, I think people are teaching that primal or paleo, that humans were more short bursts of speed, and that they only, walking, traveling, that instead of they wouldn't jog, which I think is completely incorrect. When you look at the human body, we're not geared for speed. We're actually pretty slow. I've never owned a dog that I could ever catch when it takes off or get anywhere close to it,
Yeah.
We would have to, we're upright, and being bipedal, I can't even remember how you say that, but you just, instead of being on all fours, animals have the ability to go faster and they're more aerodynamic because they're lower to the ground. Humans are upright, standing straight up. So even if we could run and go at a fast pace, our aerodynamics are horrible. I mean, it's like a big Mack truck, trying to go, 50 miles an hour. There's so much more wind resistance than a sports car. And, how would we, as far as prey, well, we'd have to chase animals in order to eat them. And the only way we could do that is we either had to outthink them, trap them, hunt them with devices as far as spears, bow and arrows, and we didn't have that technology till fairly recently. So they have shown that you can run an animal for about 4 or 5 miles till their internal temperature gets to about 105 degrees, and then they got to stop. Well, that's because they don't have the cooling system that humans have. We have the most efficient cooling system of all mammals. I mean, we're geared to be able to go out and heat and survive, run, jog, walk. An animal gets to 105, they have to do it through their lungs. They have to bring in outside air in order to cool themselves down into their lungs and cool through capillaries and through blood vessels, and like dogs in their tongues. And so we can run them down, and what they do is they actually will tire an animal. It will just collapse.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and understanding how that was a hunting technique. There was no spears, nothing involved. It was teamwork too. People would run and take turns running and chasing animals, then someone would fall back. And we've lost that. I mean, most cultures don't do that anymore. They found a few that still practice it, but it's very uncommon, but it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Animals are built like a cheetah is faster than a rabbit. But a rabbit has muscles around its waist and around its lungs and diaphragm to where it can actually bring in oxygen quicker than the cheetah. So the cheetah has to be faster than the rabbit in order to catch it to eat it. If it has a certain window, if it doesn't catch it in that certain window, it's over. Forget it.
Yeah.
And a cheetah, you'll watch, they'll stop. When they chase, and you grew up hunting too, and I've watched coyotes go chase after rabbits and stuff, even my dog. And they'll chase them for a little bit, but if they can't get to them at a certain point, they stop because they know they can't catch it, that animal is faster than they are, and that they can't continue to pursue it. So that was a long-winded explanation, but understanding endurance, that humans are geared for that. I mean, our sweat is, it has salt in it, sodium. Well, that is based upon making it sticky. So if we just, if all we did was excrete pure water, it would roll right off our bodies because of the oil. Well, with the sodium and the salt, what it does is it makes it sticky, tacky, to where our whole bodies become like cooling machines. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting to see that. So I'd never discourage people against doing any endurance. Like I said, 1 day a week, I focus in on endurance. I go out for a couple hours at least.
Well, I think, the endurance comes into play, and you'll start feeling like you can work out for longer periods of time when your hormones get adjusted, when your diet is in place. Essentially, especially after the age of 30, our testosterone starts to decline, or if you're carrying extra weight, your estrogen levels could be peaked. You're not going to feel like any sort of endurance, and you're going to be dealing with all sorts of inflammation of the joints. So by following a low carb, low sugar, ketogenic approach, keeping your blood sugar in check, meaning not consuming too much sugar in a given meal, you're going to have sustained energy. You're not going to have the inflammation. The fat will start disappearing because you're burning it as energy, and you're going to feel like going longer distances. And you can adjust your diet accordingly. If you're going to be expending more calories, you can take in more calories. It's a very simple process. And, at first you're not going to feel like it. And, optimally, when you're first starting out, really try to target like 20 minutes of cardio. Be in the optimal fat burning zone. Do 20, 30 minutes of weights. And you're going to see great results only in combination with getting your diet in check. If you don't fix your diet, you won't see the results. Bottom line.
Yeah.
And there's guys I've seen at the gym year after year, and I'm just like, wow, like what are they doing? Or actually, what are they not doing? I mean, they're not fixing their diet is what they're doing. It's very simple. It's like they're working out hard. They're there way longer than I am, and they don't get the results, and it's because of diet. I mean, you can do all the P90X you want to, but if you don't adjust your diet, then you're not going to see those kind of results. Those people and those before and after pictures, they changed their diet.
Yeah, exactly. Or they exercise to death for like 60 days or 90 days, And
Yeah.
then you want to see their photo today, and it's probably much different than it was, because then their body adapts and they burn out. But
Well,
yeah, I mean, I think with endurance, what it is too is I just don't like to cut anything out and say it's no good. I mean, especially like I said, the way the human body is built. I mean, it doesn't mean you go out and do endurance every single day, but it also doesn't mean that there are people that don't and are totally healthy. They have the right diet. You know, it's different for everyone. But even those people who do endurance, the guys who are at the top, the men and women who are at the top of their sports, they mix it up. They just don't do endurance all the time. They do sprints, they do resistance training, then they have their endurance training. You know, they mix it all together, and no matter what you're doing, what sport you're in, whether it's soccer, basketball, baseball, ultra marathoning, you want to always the top of the field will always mix it up. It's always a variety, and what I like endurance training too is, you know what it is, man. It's a great way to clear your mind. That's what I use my rides for. Friday today is my bike ride day. You know, I love my bike ride day. It's the day where I get to go out, forget about everything, quietness. I go on trails where no one is at, so I can be alone, and I sit and I just either think about things and come up with things, ideas, or I actually zone out. That's what I do.
well, I think there's something to be said here. I don't think you've ever seen a long distance runner that's overweight. That does not exist. And there's a reason, because they're burning more calories than they're taking in, and they're optimal fat burners. They can go the long distance. Guess what? They can eat pretty much whatever they want, and they're going to shed it right off. And that just goes back to proving, if you're over consuming too many calories, your body's going to store it as fat. If you're burning, taking in more calories than your body's burning, it's going to get stored. So take up running. Running's tough. It is. It's really tough in the beginning, but your body adjusts. And as you lean down and you shed the extra weight, you will naturally get more endurance, but it's got to be coupled with a diet. And running, it's one of the most challenging things for me. I love it, but you have to be in the right mood. You can't have any inflammation. You got to have a clear head. I get some of the best ideas after running. You got a great amount of endorphins pumping right after you work out. Running is amazing. And sure, it's tough on your joints and stuff like that. But if you're eating the anti-inflammatory diet, guess what? You're not going to have those issues.
Well, and that's the thing, everyone talks about, how running's bad for you and it's bad for your joints. And, well, if that was true, then all animals would be hobbled around with tendinitis and, bad sprained ankles and swollen knees, and it's the diet.
Yeah.
You don't see animals in nature with those issues, even though nature obviously takes care of its own through its own ways for a week. But that's the thing. It's our diet that's killing us. And you watch runners and who have been doing it and they've got their diet all squared away. They're now finding that, remember, it used to be 27 was like the peak for a long distance runner. And then by 30, they were toast, done. Well, they found in other cultures that do endurance training and that do run and they play games that involve endurance training, that the better runners are in their 40s, 50s, and some in 60s. Because what happens is they've maintained their body.
Yeah.
Through proper diet. They're eating their traditional cultural diet. So I know my endurance is far better than it was when I was 19, 20. It's far better. And, I'm in my 40s. Well, it's because I changed my diet. And now it's, I don't have all the inflammation. I wouldn't have to I remember taking, 3-4 days off because I just ate, and it was like, yeah.
I think there's something to be said when LeBron James, who's already a professional athlete and is dominating, decides to go on a 67-day, no sugar, no carb kind of paleo diet. He sheds the weight. He's lean and he's light. He feels great, and guess what? He's going to dominate it. And whether he's going to continue that, he'll probably drop in and out of going that extreme. But you know what? He knew that that's what it was going to take to keep him at the top of his game. I mean, he's one of the top players, and there's there's such an advantage to being lean and light. And the thing is to be lean and light but very strong. Look at Bruce Lee. This guy is he's just shredded. He's very light but extremely strong. And you can be that way when your hormones are at peak performance. If you have a low estrogen level, your testosterone level is high, and you've shed your body weight by eating a proper diet or doing the amount of cardio to shed the weight, you all of a sudden become very strong. And if you can't get your testosterone level up and you've lost the weight, cool. There's great natural supplements to be able to do that. And if your hormone levels are high with testosterone, you're gonna get that natural endurance and drive, and not only your workout, but in all areas of your life.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's part of it too. You brought up a really good point. And Bruce Lee was amazing. I mean, just amazing. I guarantee he wasn't eating paleo muffins and Quest bars all day. That's another topic for another time. But he had to have his diet in check. You do not look that way, and you cannot perform at the level he did by eating garbage. But I think that's part of the point you bring up is I think possibly that the kind of group that's against endurance training, part of that is they're not following the proper diet. So the endurance is really difficult for them, because it does. To do endurance training, you have to feel good. I know you did it. I did endurance training not feeling good, and it was misery. I hated it. I'd have to psych myself up to go for my runs and get out there, and I literally had to have to put myself in a totally different frame of mind.
Yeah.
Go out there. And now when I look at endurance training, it's a totally different mindset. I actually look forward to it. And because I know it's going to be painful, but that's anything in life, a challenge. But it's not going to be excruciating to where I want to die before I even started it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it really does come naturally, but if your diet's on point, and most importantly, your digestion is a huge thing. If you're not over acidic, and you really need to keep a proper balance within your stomach, and your body's digesting your food well, meaning that it's really getting the full value of the food you're consuming, then all of a sudden everything else falls into place. You will naturally have that ability to go longer in terms of running or whatever it is that you're doing. And digestion is such a huge thing because as we age, like if you're drinking, you're killing the enzymes in your stomach. You really are killing that good, healthy gut flora. Take a good probiotic, take digestive enzymes. If you're having problems with acid, there's so many great things you can do. Just go really green in your diet. Consume more broccoli, kelp, spinach. I mean, all that stuff that, you don't want to eat, you should be eating. And you know what? You just do it. Throw it in a Vitamix, blend it up, throw some lemon or make it taste good. I mean, Vitamix is great. It's way better than a juicer because in juicing, you have all this leftover like stuff that smells from the vegetables. If you throw it in like a mixer, guess what? You don't have any of that. It liquefies. You drink the entire thing. You're getting way more fiber, way more nutrition, or whatever mixer you want to use. It doesn't have to be Vitamix, but the thing is, it's out there, and just if you don't want to eat something, that's probably the thing you should be eating.
Yeah, matter of fact, that you bring up another good point is we probably should talk about juicing sometime soon because there's a lot of misconceptions on juicing, and it's a big MLM / marketing ploy. Juicing's been around forever.
Juicing's a pain. Juicing's a huge pain, and I'm actually gonna start probably buy a Vitamix and start juicing more myself. I typically eat a lot of greens anyways. I try to eat a lot of salads, so but that's so important. You've got to keep your acidity level low in your stomach, and guess what? It's gonna allow you that extra endurance in the gym. It's so important, and you're gonna have more energy too. If you're overly acidic, you're gonna have inflammation. You're gonna be dealing with all these other issues. But we'll save that for another show. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. We've had just a tremendous outpouring of support and emails, and we want to thank you all. You can email Gary or I at gary@theprimalshow.com or myself, Heath@theprimalshow.com. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and you get updates and notifications every time we launch a new video. Visit Gary's site at the Primal.
See, you're doing it now too. Oh, it's close.
Yes. The Primal Power Method.com.
Primal Power Method.
I got it. Primal Power Method. And myself at julianbakery.com/blog. We have over 600 recipes and how-to videos. And we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks so much.